So John was asking about the forgiveness prayer. Actually, the forgiveness prayer goes something like finding forgiveness, asking for forgiveness for one's own deeds that may have hurt somebody, um, giving forgiveness to those who uh, may have hurt us in some way, and also giving forgiveness to ourselves if we're not yet ready to forgive, and also just giving forgiveness in general for all the ways we kind of harm ourselves and hurt and through our own confusions, basically. The phrase that what you're talking about, John, is in actually it's in the chant for loving kindness, where may I be able to protect my own happiness. And what that means, I mean, I've used that for many years. Uh, it's said in other ways too. It's said in ways where it may be translated as may I care for myself happily. But I like that way of saying, may I be able to protect my own happiness. And for me, and I'm not sure what it says in Pali because I never learnt the Pali for that. But for me, that means that when I would say do a meditation in the morning before I go to work, and I'd come to that phrase, may I be able to protect my own happiness, I would think of, may I be able to be compassionate, may I be able to be wise, may I be able to be uh, helpful and mindful in all my activities, so I don't do something that I later regret. So I don't do something that's unwise. So I don't do the causes of suffering for myself. So not only would I then also what I would say was, may other beings be able to protect their own happiness. We can't protect their own happiness. It's them that have to protect their own happiness. Like, as much as I want someone to be happy, peaceful, and free, I can't force it on them. It has to be come from their own kind of impetus, their own intentions. So when I say that, may I be able to protect my own happiness, I'm really saying, may I be mindful throughout the day. May I be able to exercise wisdom and discernment in what I do. And actually, it helps. It sort of sets up that intention that when you're going through the day and there's a situation where you might say something that might be hurtful or do something that might be hurtful to you or someone else, you remember your intention from the beginning, like from the beginning of the day, or that general sense that actually, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hurt myself. Because in doing harmful actions, whether it's to someone else or to ourselves, it's harmful in the long run to ourselves. I don't want that. I want happiness. May I be able to protect my own happiness. I'll protect my happiness not by not acting in ways where I'm going to be hurtful to someone. Is that clear, John?
Yeah, I just thought
That's a good
also
question.
I'm also thinking about anger.
Yeah,
I think anger, like you said, anger can be used constructively to give you the
absolutely.
to give you the energy.
Yeah. And again, you
And
could,
that ties into your own happiness as well,
yeah.
protecting your happiness.
Yeah.
Like you said, one of your teachers is used the word bonk or something. It's
So
very stern.
what is it? What do they use?
Uh, Boom or something he used. One of your teachers was very stern with you in Thailand
Yeah, yeah.
when you were there.
Oh, do.
That sternness. Is there some anger in that when they get a bit annoyed with you?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
yeah.
a
I
little
know.
bit of anger there, but it's still done with a
Compassion.
love and affection to you as well?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can use that anger to give you the energy, but the sternness, and you can still have the affection for the other person as well. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
that's skillful use, isn't it? And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that skillful use.
Well, yeah, it's useful to yeah, one has to be very careful because what you're talking about is I think in mindful self-compassion, they talk about it as fierce compassion. And sometimes that term is becoming popular in the last, I've seen it become popular in the last maybe 6 or 7 years, something like that. But it's exactly that. It's fierce compassion. And just one has to be very careful. I've seen I've seen the Tai teachers be quite stern, and the term in Thai is called du, like fierce. And
Mm.
I noticed that I did this the other day. My dog, my beautiful dog, he's gone into a bad habit because we've been feeding him. He'll come and talk to us when he likes human food. He doesn't like, dog food. He thinks it's crap. And whenever we got, something fried and he can smell it and it's really nice. He'll come up to me and go, ooh, he'll sit beside me and go, oh, 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 and then he flaps his eyelids. Ooh. And he was doing this the other day and I was trying to listen to a conversation and I was trying to, listen to what my partner was saying. And I just turned around to him. I said, stop it. And he's shocked. He got shocked and he stopped. So, I mean, I wasn't going to hit him or anything like that, but I was just firm. But the trouble with relying on that, your dog isn't silly. He's trained me. My dog's trained me very well. Yeah. But he did stop. Um, the trouble with that is that often we'll start to justify violence. Uh, like, back in the old days and back in my generation, people spare the what I spare the stick and I can't remember the saying, but
The
people
rod.
spare the rod and what damage the child or something like that. There used
Yes.
to, there used to be this belief that you had to kind of whip people and hit them, and I got the cane lots of times at school. I mean, because I was pretty good, but I did some terrible things, and I got the cane. One day I got 10 cuts. In one day, I got it in the morning. I had six. In the afternoon, I had four. And people don't learn things by that sort of treatment. And there was a Chinese medicine person I was traditional Chinese medicine practitioner I was studying with, and he said, in terms of raising children, he said, when you're angry, you never scold a child when you're angry. You never discipline a child when you're angry because, and especially you don't hit them because you'll hit them hard or you do something that's based on your anger rather than your loving compassion to help them learn something. So it's this one has to be very careful. It's easy to justify violence, especially when we're angry, and the anger will increase its impact in a negative way. So I think personally that, however, I think that this emotion, anger, it's a natural emotion. It's uh, it's like all the emotions. It has a function. It has served a function in our evolution to become humans. But sometimes it can go wrong and very wrong. So we have to be very, very careful of it. If we want to use anger, well, the first thing is if we want to use anger, it's better not to use anger. It's better to use a kind of a calm, equanimous approach to something. And it doesn't mean that you don't go ahead and do what you need to do. Like when I was angry about the gas, the gas fields here, I would I would use that frustration to write letters. And I think the problem with when we justify anger to get things done, it can often slip into violence and, be counterproductive. But it's just that I think the evolutionary role of anger was to challenge injustice and protect ourselves and our kin. Like it's part of the fight or flight response, actually. But you just have to be very, very careful about it. That's all. I would say that when my teachers in Thailand would say, stop it, or do it to me, like they were really firm and to me, I don't know whether they were completely awakened or not. I mean, who knows? They never said anything like that. But I like to think that they were kind of managing their emotions very well, and they were just doing that for a beneficial purpose. I like to think that. But what's most important is that we know ourselves and know our motivations and why we're doing something. Yeah.
Dalai Lamas. I heard someone say the Dalai Lama struggled with righteous anger.
What did he say?
Right, is it righteous anger or
Yeah, righteous anger. He stumbled with that, did you say? Or
he struggled with it the
oh
most?
yeah, yeah. Mm,
Probably to do with the Chinese invading his country and
possibly.
destroying so much.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Look, yeah, I could go on
So
for.
obviously, I just thought there's something going on there that he is entitled to that. There is some activity of anger that may be justified or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting on dicey ground, but
Yeah,
I think it's always important to look towards yourself and look to be mindful of your own reactions. And if one sees anger as an issue that's leading to more suffering, then if you do those, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free from troubles of mind and body, may I be able to protect my own happiness. You can think, oh, may I be mindful of when I feel anger arise and do something that's helpful and not fall victim to the anger. May I
the
may I take time out, for example, get a bit of space, rather than following my urges to hit the person or say something nasty or whatever it is. That's,
the
as a way of doing.
mindfulness the
Yeah,
mindfulness is about being aware that it's now active in me, that
absolutely.
the anger is there and it's underneath,
Yep,
and I've got to be very careful with it.
absolutely. That's it. That's very good. That's it. You're letting go, like you're mindfully aware of its presence. You're seeing its impermanence, and therefore seeing it's not self nature. It's not who and what you are. It is just a mental event that is arising. It's driving you to do something, but you can choose not to do it. You can't control emotions that will arise. You can't say, I'm not going to get angry or I'm not going to do this, but you can make a choice with what you do with those emotions. And that's what's important. And yeah, and there's a program I studied and practiced and did a few rounds of it actually, called Cultivating Emotional Balance. It was authored by Alan Wallace and Paul Ekman. And Paul Ekman admitted that he was an angry type, very angry all the time. Paul Ekman is a scientist of emotions. He talked about the seven basic emotions and so on, universal emotions. And he would say, what we do with that anger is to notice it's there, but then take time out. Because when you have anger, when you have an emotion, what happens is there's a kind of a tunnel vision sense with the emotion. Like when you're sad, all you see is what's causing you to be sad. When you're happy, all you see is what's happy. I mean, you see lots of good things. When you're frightened, all you see is what you're afraid of. When you're angry, what you see is all you see is what is going against your your directions, things that you want going against that. And so it's better to be able to let the emotions go through their time period, let them fade away a bit, and then come back. It's useful to not engage in an argument when you're angry because you're unable to see the other person's perspective. All you're seeing is your own perspective. So Paul Ekman would say, time out, go away, get out of the situation until your emotion is settled. Then you come back and negotiate what you need to negotiate. Basically, that's the
It's,
advice.
there still might be some energy there from the anger as well.
There still may be.
And
And
that can help you. That's all right to let that help you
you
a
could
little.
probably, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's about, on this path of freedom, it's about reducing greed, ignorance, and hatred. You know, it's about stepping off the cycles that entangle us and bind us into samsara. And, most of us, well, there's only a few people I know that are completely awakened. And we're still caught in these binds, and our efforts are to be free from being bound by anger and sadness and the grief of sadness, free from being bound by fear. Not that we don't have these experiences, but we're able to manage them and work with them rather than them taking over. It's about when I was working with little kids, when I was working in, I used to work in Gilgandra and Walgett, of all places. Walgett. I don't know if anybody knows Walgett. A lot of, a lot of violence in Walgett at the time. This was nearly 35 years ago. And I used to see little First Nations people, boys, that were caught up in fights at school, only 8 and 9 years old. And I used to say to them, they wouldn't talk to me very much, but, we eventually get around to why they got caught up in fights. And I'd say to them, do you want to be the boss of anger or you want anger to be the boss of you? And they'd say, I want to be the boss of anger. And eventually they'd kind of think about it. And so then we had something to work with then. Well, how can you be the boss of anger? What do you do? You're going to send reconnaissance, out about seeing how anger appears and what it does to you and get to know it and get familiar with it. So it'd be like a spy to get to know the enemy, get to know it really well so you know what to do. So that was a way of kind of developing mindfulness of all things about anger. But it felt like it provided a bit of space from, I mean, it wasn't a magic wand or anything like that, but it was something I could work with and something they could work with, I think. So it's about that. It's about we can't control the emotion arising, but we can choose what we do with it. And it's probably better to let it kind of work with it, be responsible about working with it before we act on it, if that makes sense.
There's the I feel statements and stuff like that,
Yeah,
which
actually, they're
which
very
you
good.
use,
Yeah.
and that to get to those statements, I have to probably push away some other emotions. So the anger can probably get me to focus stronger or something, maybe to produce those statements.
Whatever way you can reduce being entangled and identified with anger, that's a good path to follow. Whatever way you can reduce the hatred or the greed or the non-knowing, that's the path to follow. I mean, we still have greed, ignorance, and hatred. We're still caught up in it, but we're doing our best, and it's a concerted effort. And when you do that statement, may I be able to protect my own happiness, imagine yourself going through your day in a way where you're actually working towards what's important for you and not being dragged along and um, hijacked by various emotions. Thanks, John.
Okay. Thanks, Mel.
Amy.
Thanks, John, for your question, because I think it's a topic that I'm constantly looking at the moment. And I notice my pattern of that self-righteous anger. And, I try to do that thing of walking away and getting space. But I find that I get into the mind state that arises is, it's quite a strong angry emotion. It's self-righteous. It's my view. I'm right. other person's wrong or the other person's not saying it. And, you know, I notice that I go in this and then I go into a hurt pattern of some kind of, it's almost like self-pity. The hurt's so deep, but it's sort of like I don't have enough Teflon. And I think my pattern of reaction is around not having enough Teflon, you know, if we're to put it in the Rick Hansen way. But yeah, and a real kind of, and then that sort of later thing of beating up on self for, you know, not handling it the way I would have liked to have handled it and stuff like that. But how, you know, what is that? What is the way to, you know, sort of undo that? I mean, it's not an undoing, but it's being with that strong emotion. It's such a strong emotion, I guess. I'm just
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
I don't know how to get out of it, and it can be hours. It can even be a day or two before I'm sort of coming out of it. And
Mm.
it's not. It's just a yeah. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, there's lots of ways, and sometimes people spend their lifetimes trying to work with it. But you know, like you're doing mindful self-compassion program at the moment. Have you done the name Feel, Soften, Soothe, and Allow exercise yet?
No.
Well, I'll just describe it very briefly.
Mm.
Uh, the name and feel is the mindfulness component of this protocol or exercise, and soften, soothe, and allow is the compassionate component of this exercise. It's used for painful emotions, and it's classic with a painful emotion. A classic painful emotion is anger and being consumed by anger. So, one way you can work with it, for example, is you first of all name it. Oh, there is anger. And by naming it, you get a bit of space automatically. It's a mindfulness tool. It's called noting in, you know, traditional circles. So that just noting it, oh, anger has arisen. Isn't that interesting? And then rather than kind of feeding into the story about the anger, like that bastard, why could they do that? How can those people do that? He's so horrible. And he's just being so wrong in what he's doing. And look at that. I mean, we're having these feelings often about people that are on the other side of the world, and they've got no idea, and do they care about what we're thinking and feeling? And they have no consideration whatsoever about what's going on in this, you know, mind in this person in the middle of Australia. And so rather than trying to work with the thoughts about it and, you know, the emotions that are arising, you have the emotion, it's anger, but something about emotions is that you can experience them all in all four foundations, actually. Uh, I was talking about emotions as being part of heart mind. And they are, I mean, they're very much part of heart mind, the heart mind foundation. But there's also a strong feeling component, like it's very unpleasant. And there's also a strong bodily component, which is, you know, usually it has this kind of tension around your shoulders and in your arms. Actually, that's a biological thing. You're getting ready to fight. You know, the fight or flight response, when we're frightened, our legs are starting to shake. Our legs are getting ready to run. And with anger, you might notice an upper body tension happening, like like you grit your fists and you tighten your shoulders. You're getting ready to punch. It's a biological thing. So you note it, you pay attention to how it's feeling in the body. And when I get angry, I usually have a ton of tightness in my chest as well. It's really uncomfortable. And you stay with the feelings, like the somatic feelings of it. Because the body doesn't lie, the body doesn't create more stories. There's more likelihood that mental stories will proliferate. And so one story will feed into another, feed into another, and feed into another. But by the end of the, you know, an hour or two, you're enraged and you've created this whole story. And it's just your creation, you know. So you name it, feel it, and then you soften around it. This is the protocol anyway. You soften around it, and that is um, you kind of relax around it. You're honing on how it feels in the body, and you relax about it. You're using noting, and you're practicing mindfulness, And then if it feels right, I mean, I want to emphasize that, sometimes this name, feel, soften, soothe, and allow exercise, people jump into giving themselves soothing compassion, perhaps sometimes prematurely, like they're trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to give myself compassion. It helps, but it's sometimes that force compassion gets it's a bit premature. Well, it's not premature. Sorry, I'll say it like this: all the intentions, like if we're engaging in the Eightfold Path here, what we have in the Eightfold Path is right view, right intentions, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Effort, mindfulness, and concentration is the meditation component. And right view, right intention. Intention has three aspects to it. One of these aspects is is about not doing it with how can I say it? Three intentions. One is about goodwill. Another one is about harmlessness, and another is about letting go or renunciation. It's called renunciation, but I call it letting go. So this one on harmlessness is actually compassion. And the one on goodwill includes compassion and mettā, or warm benevolence. So this is all governed by that intention. But, sometimes we push ourselves into having an emotion. Oh, I've got to feel compassionate for myself, or I've got to feel compassionate for another. And it just doesn't sit well. But when it's not sitting well, remember that your basic intention here is to be free from suffering. Step back a bit and don't beat yourself up. So coming back to this name, feel, soften, soothe, and allow. So you name it, put a word to it. Think about it a lot. What word will I use? Just name it. Intense emotion, or anger, or rage, or frustration, or whatever it is. Then you feel it. So you're putting it into your body, so the body doesn't lie. The body won't proliferate necessarily. Oh, sometimes it does actually, but it's probably better to be there than in your mind thinking about it. Then you soften around it, which is relaxing around it. Then you soothe it, and you can access the evolutionary aspects of kind and gentle touch, or words that are filled with kindness, or that tone of voice that's kind. So this is a biological response. It stimulates oxytocin, which is the hug hormone. It'll bring us peace and a sense of connection. So that you just soften, soothe, and allow it. And then, you soften and soothe it, and then you allow it. So look, I've used that. I mean, there's so many other strategies to use with anger, and I've got a few in my book. I've talked a little bit about anger in my book. But I found that name, feel, soften, soothe, and allow from mindful self-compassion was a really kind of concise and user-friendly way of approaching painful emotions. So I often use it with people. So, seeing you're on the course, you might consider it.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's it's a good one. I do use those gestures and go through a bit of that process, but it can still take quite a bit of time. But I think it's about maybe that wiseful action is just to catch it a bit earlier before it goes to and gets into the next quadrant kind of thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's when it becomes a stronger emotion, it's harder to soothe.
Yeah,
but
absolutely,
catch it
absolutely.
early is probably a really good approach. But thank you, that's very helpful.
Yeah, you just sit with it, like, anger. How do I feel this right now? Oh, it's so uncomfortable. And it's a matter of distress tolerance here, but it's easier to tolerate it in your body than it is in your mind. Okay, thanks. Thank you. I think it's lunchtime.